Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mr. Clerk, would you please take roll call?
Dave Abdallah.
Here.
Bill Bazzi.
Here.
Robert Constant.
Here.
Lisa Hicks Clayton.
Here.
Denise Malinowski Maxwell.
Here.
Ray Muscat.
Here.
Tom Wenzel.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to have Denise lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please take your seats. Next, we have approval of the agenda.
Madam Chairwoman.
Councilwoman Hicks.
Thank you. I move to approve the order of business February 13th, 2018, regular meeting of Dearborn Heights City Council with the revised addendum for 9D.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carried. Next on the agenda, we have approval of the minutes. I'm sorry. Before I go there, I forgot tonight is special. First of all, I'd like to say that we are in different seats tonight. It was suggested by Lisa Hicks Clayton that it'd probably be better if we change seats so Bill could be next to me, and I think that'll work out perfect. And so you'll see a different seating tonight, but I'd like to thank Lisa for that suggestion.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Want to come and have a seat here? Go and have a seat. Tonight's a very special night. As most of you know, our council secretary, Denise, is retired. She's sticking around a couple weeks to help train, but we want to honor her tonight. She's a very special person. We're going to miss her dearly. I'm going to have tears, but one thing about Denise, I'm not going to talk a lot, but if Denise is your friend, you are the luckiest person in the world, because she will put herself behind everybody. And I thank you for everything you've done for us over the years. Don't cry, because you're making me cry. And first of all, we have a card. We have a card for Denise. If anybody has not signed it, we have a lot of employees here in the council. We'll have it here afterwards. Sign it. We'll give it to her in the morning. And I want to thank in advance. We have two people who have very busy schedules that probably worked all day that agreed to come out tonight and do something special. So we'll begin with Senator David Kniezek, and we have our County Commissioner Diane Webb to make a couple of presentations. So Denise, you want to come up here? And thank you both, Senator and Commissioner, for coming here this evening and spending a couple minutes with us.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Clerk, for the introduction. We were contacted by the clerk's office a couple weeks ago. Where are you at, Denise? I gotta look at you. We were contacted by the clerk's office, and he shared, it was important to him to make sure that we could recognize you for all that you've done for the city. And we wanted to make sure that we could do that at the state level as well. So we did prepare a tribute for you. I'll read it so that everybody can know what we wanted to honor you with here tonight. So it says, "Let it be known that it is a great pleasure to extend this expression of our thanks and best wishes to Ms. Denise Walker upon the occasion of her retirement from the city of Dearborn Heights. With the commitment she has given to our community over her career, she has exhibited the highest standards of citizenship and unselfishness. After growing up in Dearborn Heights, Denise became City Council Secretary for her beloved city on May 15th, 1998. She has worked dutifully for 20 years and has left a deep impression on all those who had the pleasure to know her. Compassion, understanding, and selflessness are but three of the words that come to mind when one thinks of Miss Walker. Regardless if one is a dear friend or a total stranger, she is always willing to lend a helping hand and always exemplifies her own life philosophy of always doing the right thing. Her example will long be appreciated by everyone. Mrs. Walker will be deeply missed in her retirement. It is rare to find a member of the community like that of Mrs. Walker, and it is the feeling of many that she is truly irreplaceable. Family has been and always will be the most important thing to her, and so in retirement, we hope that she will get to enjoy their company even more, travel up north, and of course, cheer on the University of Michigan. In special tribute, therefore, this document is signed and dedicated to honor Mrs. Denise Walker as she retires from the city of Dearborn Heights. May the kindness she has sought to share with others be returned to her many times over. And it's signed by myself, our state representative, Frank Liberati, as well as our governor, Rick Snyder, and our lieutenant governor, Brian Calley. Thank you so much for everything, Denise. We wish you the best in your retirement. And now we'll turn it over to our county commissioner, Diane Webb.
Hi, Diane. Hi, Denise. Look, I got Kleenex because I know we're both wet. Oh, these are for you, pretty lady. Thank you very much. You are so welcome. Okay. Thank you for allowing me to be here, and thank you, Walt, for giving me notice so that I could do this for Denise, who always has my back with the agenda and anything else you ever needed. You are so going to be missed. But on behalf of the Wayne County Commission, whereas it is with great pride and pleasure that we, the members of the Wayne County Commission, pause to recognize and bestow due honor upon Denise Walker on the occasion of her retirement as Council Secretary for the City of Dearborn Heights. And whereas Denise Walker is a graduate of Annapolis High School, she began her career with the City of Dearborn Heights on May 15th of 1998. Denise's professionalism and great work ethic has been a profound and positive impact on all the people that she works with. Whereas Denise Walker is a resident of Dearborn Heights, she is the proud mother of two sons, Nick and Robbie, and the loving grandmother of Elijah and Avalia. And whereas, in addition to raising her family, Denise Walker is a member of St. Sebastian Church, and in her free time enjoys scrapbooking and going up north. She's also a huge sports fan and attends many Red Wing Tiger baseball, and is a huge U of M football fan that goes to many games. She would, some would say that she breathes blue and gold, because you quite often will see her wearing some sort of U of M clothing. Denise is a kind and caring woman and is always the first person to jump up and help anyone who needs it. Once Denise is your friend, you have a friend for life. Therefore, be it resolved that the Wayne County Commission salutes and proudly joins in the celebration of 19 years of professional accomplishment and service to Dearborn Heights by Denise Walker. We further extend our support and best wishes on the special occasion of her retirement. And further be it resolved on this 13th day of February 2018 that this resolution will be spread at length upon the journal of the day's proceedings to endure as a lasting record of respect and appreciation, and that a suitable copy will be presented to Denise Walker. We congratulate her on her well-earned retirement and send our best wishes to her and her family for continued success, happiness, and good health in all the years to come. Thank you so much, Denise. Her. and if you want to talk now that we made you out.
I kind of am overwhelmed right now. I don't know what to say, but I want to thank all of you. It's been a wild ride, but I've made so many friends, and I'm going to miss so many people here. But I'm looking forward to retirement and spending time with my family. I have a house full, as everybody knows, and spending more time with my dad. And I just want to thank everybody so much. So, thank you.
Denise, if your family...
Are you still here?
Denise, if your family wants to take you for dinner, or you can leave.
They're very cute.
She's not listening.
You're going to stay here? I'm going to give you yours.
I don't know if she's going or...
You know, she used to worship.
Thank you, everyone.
Previously,
Next on the agenda is the approval of,
Get out of the way.
Go home.
Stay during the whole meeting.
next on the agenda, we have the approval of the minutes from January 23rd, 2018.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman
I move council approve the agenda as attached.
Second?
Second.
Second, Councilman Abdel. Any discussion?
That was approve the minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Close enough.
Next item on the agenda is public hearings and
Point of order, we need to vote.
Yes.
Oh,
You have the motion on the floor.
oh, okay.
Yes. Chair.
All right.
So all in favor of approval of the minutes? All in favor?
Oh, for the minutes.
All
we
in
already
favor of
did
the
agenda.
approval of the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, sorry. Got out of order with Denise and everything. Next on the agenda is public hearings and comments on agenda items. Please come to the podium and state your name and limit your discussion to 2 minutes, and please keep it to current agenda items only.
Hearing none.
Anyone? Last call?
Let's go.
Anyone? Number 6 is fund transfers and current claims.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Muscat?
I move that council approve items 6-1 through 631 as outlined.
Support.
Councilman Constant supports it. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I had a question for DPW Director Bill Zimmer, and I've kind of asked something similar to this before, but I just want to get a clarification. On item number 6.6, and it'd be on the second page, there was $2,500 charged for a property at and I know you're not going to remember the property, obviously, but just in general, for a property at 4132 Edgewood, cutting down the dying maple and grind out the stump. But the amount charged was $2,500. It seemed a little bit high to me. Do you think it's in line as far as with a tree and a stump?
No, that's actually not high at all. I mean, it's common. I've seen them go as high as $14,000. Actually, the city has got a better deal with Dearborn Tree Service than they would normally offer the public.
The only reason I asked, because a couple of other ones, one on Courier and one on Fortson Highway, were $900. Obviously, they're probably smaller trees, but I just wanted to make sure that you were comfortable with the $2,500 amount.
Right, and most of the trees that we give them, we're aware of the diameter of the tree, the particulars as far as removal, the hazards, other things like that taken into effect.
Okay, thank you, Bill. That's it from me.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
actually, this goes to all the departments. Going through all the items in Section 6, I wanted to find out what the process is. I don't know if that's a question for the mayor or the department heads. When there's, I see the invoices on every item, but one thing I haven't seen is like a backup slide to show if there was been an RFQ was sent to various companies. I mean, I see certain companies always pop up on the invoices, but I don't see if there's any RFQs, requests for quotes for other companies to bid on certain projects. So I don't know if somebody can answer it today, or if this is something that, if there's a procedure that we can review.
If I might suggest, through the council chair, why don't you set up a meeting and we can talk about it? A lot of these have been gone out for bids or quotes. In some cases, there are invoices that the council would want to see. So even though there's a procedure and it's been approved, and even when I was on the council, we wanted to look at some of these. So we could go through the nature in the evening and explore and tell you how we got to the point that we're at, and we're always open to any suggestions.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next item on the agenda is consideration of bids.
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Hicks Clayton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to concur with Fire Chief David Brogan to request and accept the bid from Apollo Fire Equipment to purchase hose and nozzles at a cost of $21,102.50. Federal AFG grant will cover $17,100. The remaining balance of $4,002.50 will come out of capital outlay. Payment upon receipt and return the bid deposits to unsuccessful bidders as outlined in 7A.
Supports.
Councilman Muscat supports. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. We have 7B, advertise for bids, City Hall rooftop HVAC, Public Service Administrator Zimmer.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Muscat?
I move council concur with William Zimmer to have the comptroller's office advertise for bids to replace one rooftop high-vac unit as outlined in 7B.
Second.
Councilwoman Hicks Clayton seconds it. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Next item on the agenda is reports from the mayor. 8A is proposed 2017 to 2018 water and sewage budget.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilman.
I move that we concur with Mayor Pletko and approve the 2017-2018 water and sewer budget attached to 8A.
Second.
Any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Madam
Hicks.
Chair. Just a quick question. I'm looking at the budget, page 9 is showing the capital outlay, and I thought this was a multi-year plan, but my question is, do we have an updated list? And in particular, because we do have new council members, have we received one that is the most current updated list of capital outlay?
That was provided when Plant Moran made their presentation back in December. We're more than happy to provide it to anybody, but this is really a cleanup because a motion was passed on the rates but not on the budget. And if I was sitting in your seat, I would want to approve the budget. So when I became aware that the situation existed, I put this on for you to approve.
And Madam Chair, just follow up. I do agree, the budget, normally we approve the water budget when we do the rate increase or the vote on that. I was curious because I know the reason I voted the way I did, the justification was, there were several things, there were infrastructure updates and upgrades, water main breaks contribute to that factor, but also the water meters, and that's what I was looking for, and that's why I was asking, because I know that was in December, early December, and wanted to make sure everyone has that information, and I would appreciate that as well. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Next item, under reports from mayor, we have reappointments to the Board of Review.
Madam Chair?
Councilman Constant?
I move we concur with Mayor Pletko and appoint Tom Kramars, Dennis Sabota, whose term will expire in January 2021, James Roll,
and Charles Boza, whose terms will expire January 2021, and Lynn Killian, whose term will expire 2020, to the Board of Review, as outlined in 8B.
Second.
Second. Okay, Councilman.
I just want to clarify, Madam Chair, that it's a reappointment of different individuals for the Tax Review Board.
Okay. Is there any other discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
it's question, is there a significance between the dates? Some expire in 2019, there's 2020 and 2021 dates for the appointments.
They're staggered, and it was set up this way so that you didn't get a complete turnover of the board.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Next, under reports from mayor, we have 457 plans.
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Hicks?
I believe per the mayor's request to move this, I would move that we move this item to a study session.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Next on the agenda is reports from city officials. From Treasurer Riley, winter tax due date extension.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
I move we concur with Treasurer John Riley to move the winter tax bills, which are due on February 14th. In the history of the city, he had noticed that a lot of taxpayers assume that the due date is due on the 15th, and that could be because of federal income taxes or other holidays. And there's a penalty of 3% for paying the bill late. So in the past, City Council would waive the 3% penalty in the winter taxes for the entire month of February. In this case, what he's suggesting that we move the due dates to be on the 15th without a penalty, as outlined in item 9A.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next item on the agenda, under reports from city officials, also from Treasurer Riley, General Government Pension Administrative Committee Member at-large appointment.
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Hicks?
Yes, I believe this is a receive, note, and file, so I would move to receive, note, and file the item 9B.
Support.
Is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I had a question for, I believe the mayor would be able to answer this one. I thought I was under the understanding, Mr. Mayor, that there would have to be, I don't know if it's just normal protocol or you have to have a city council person on that board. Is that correct or no?
John?
An active city council person.
John would probably know.
The city council has the ability to appoint 2 members to that board. Your council, back in December, they appointed myself, and I've been on the General Government Pension Committee since I became the treasurer. And then you guys also appointed Vince McCary, who is the retired city controller, as one of your representatives. And then there's 2 employee elected representatives, which make up 4. Those 4 select the 5th one, which happens to be former Councilman Joseph Kaczynski, and I think he's been on it since 1994.
Right,
So,
and I'm sure he'll do a great job.
But no, it's not a requirement that a
It's not a
councilman,
requirement,
but you could appoint whoever you guys wanted to for your appointments.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Next on the agenda, under reports from city officials, we have from Administrative Assistant Laszlo, State of Michigan FY 2016 Pre-Disaster Mitigation Grant Program Agreement.
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Hicks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that City Council approve the State of Michigan FY 2016 Pre-Disaster Mitigation Grant Program Grant Agreement and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign as outlined in 9C.
Support.
Muscat seconds it.
And by the way, Council Chair, this, for everybody to be aware, this is for the purchase and demolition of the homes on Courier and Hanover Street that were always being viciously flooded over the years. So this is something very important.
Yeah, great.
And thank you for the hard work, Ms. Laszlo.
Yeah, this is, if I might, Council Chair, it is we we're able to get an additional grant from the state of Michigan and FEMA to now look at some of the homes that constantly are being flooded east of or west of Telegraph. So we're going to be able to help some of those people out. And so we're pretty excited about this. And I think the program, the first phase that we did, has been run very excellently.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, Madam Chair. First of all, great job for putting this together, Mr. Mayor and Chrissy. That's very important, obviously, for the residents. And this is for west of Telegraph, as I understood.
This is east of...
No, this is for west.
West of Telegraph.
East of Telegraph is what we did before.
Right. This is Courier.
Yes, the west.
Yeah, that's the
West
west
of
side of
Telegraph.
Telegraph.
So I know Chrissy's not here, so hopefully, Mr. Mayor, you can answer this.
Sure.
Was there any homeowners that reject, I'm just curious, any homeowners that rejected this? Or are they all on board? Because I know it's not mandatory for a homeowner to accept, moving out and tearing their home down.
That's true. Even the first phase, not all the homes have been acquired, and people can drop out until they actually sign the purchase agreement. So it is voluntary, and what we found in the first phase, and you being in the real estate business, the amounts that the residents were getting...
Much more than, yeah.
Well beyond market value.
Absolutely. Especially because of the fact that the prices they were getting did not factor in the flooding situation. So they were getting, great market value, absolutely. Another question I had, Mr. Mayor, this is on page 34 of this contract. And the question I had is on the demolition. There's 12 houses that are going to be demolished, and the unit cost is $16,750. I'd like to presume that that's not the official cost for every single one of those homes, because sometimes, as you've seen with the last time that we did this on Hanover east of Telegraph, there were homes that were 11,000, 10,000, 15, etc.
This is look at this as kind of a budget amount.
Okay.
And then when we go out for bids or quotes, the numbers could be different.
Perfect. Because I had noticed on item 9K, which was the property on Joey Road that's going to be demolished, and that was $9,800. So I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so this is just a budget amount, which is good. Second question I had, and I'm not sure if this one is for Council Gary Miyake, on the attorney fees, $7,250. Just want to check, is that the amount to do the contracts on all these? Because quite honestly, I felt it was a little bit on the high side, considering that it's going to be somewhat of a template purchase agreement with just the addresses changing.
Well, and this would have been reviewed by Harry Kilgerakis from Allen Brothers, and I'm assuming that they used the prior
purchase agreements,
right, and as a template.
Correct.
So I would be under the impression that they would have ended up using that, and that this would be based on some past experience. But I have not actually reviewed the matters.
Okay, so it was not yourself.
It was not me.
Okay, so how do we look into this?
I will have it checked. Christina's not here tonight.
Sure.
She had a funeral.
She's funeral, correct.
And we'll get an answer for you tomorrow.
Please, if you don't mind. Thank you very much. That's it, Madam Chair.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Next, we have from Corporation Counsel Miyake, agreements with Deponio Contracting Incorporated regarding 4901 South Inkster.
Mr. Chair? I move council approve the property usage agreement with Deponio Contracting Incorporated, as well as the addendum to agreement between the City of Dearborn Heights and Deponio Contracting, and authorize Deponio Contracting, and authorize the Mayor Pletko and the City Clerk Walter Persevich to execute these agreements on behalf of the city as outlined in 9D.
Second.
Support.
Second by Councilman Abdal. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I had a couple of questions.
Sure.
First question is just a clarification. Mr. Mayor, was this one that was used as a church at one time temporarily, or a school, was it?
No, this was the incinerator property.
Okay. So it's not currently in use at all, right? Or wasn't recently?
And I had a discussion with the Pastor Porter, who has a church next door, to alert him
Okay,
that
that's
this
where I'm
was going in. And so I didn't want to see him alarmed. And so he said it was fine. In fact, what he told me was, I'm going to go over and visit the company after they have their cement thing set up and ask them if they have any extra cement and pave my parking lot.
There we go. Good idea, good idea. The second question I had, and I presume this would be Council Garmiatki. I noticed when I read through the contract that there was no deposit, unless I missed it, but I went through the contract. Was there any, I noticed it's a short-term lease for, I think it's like 9 or 10 months, if I'm not mistaken, but there was no deposit taken, and that kind of concerns me because in the event somebody decides not to move out, or God forbid there's damage or whatever,
if you look at the property usage agreement, which is the first page of the attachment, you'll see that what it says is, in consideration of this usage, Deponio Contracting, Inc. agrees to pay the owner or its agent a good faith deposit in the amount of not applicable, non-refundable rent payable at beginning of term per addendum. So essentially what we're looking at in this situation is they're going to be paying everything up front.
Right.
So it will secure the payment of all rent. Correct. And this is not one of those types of situations where I would expect that there's much, if any, real downside with regard to what they're supposed to clean up. This is
I mean, collecting the total amount of rent up front is perfect for us. I mean, that's when you know obviously you're going to get your money. You got your money.
Right.
My only concern is at move-out time, if for whatever reason, either God forbid there's damage, or for whatever reason they don't move out, what repercussions would we have at that point without a deposit?
Well, at that point, we would have a potential claim against them for breach of contract. My sense is that, as you can see, the property usage agreement that they had did not provide any of the provisions that I added in the addendum.
And
those provisions,
the contract was well written. I want to make clear because I did read through it. It's definitely well written.
Yeah, and I think those should be sufficient given the nature of the agreement. It's not perfect. In other words, we could end up asking for deposit as well. However, since they're paying everything up front, and that's not very typical, as you know, from your business dealings, I think we're being pretty well covered.
Have we done business with this company before?
No.
No? Okay. Because I know they're doing some projects, as I read, like 3 miles away, so they needed a place to store stuff.
They're doing business actually for the city of Dearborn, as I understand. That's part of what they're doing. Is City of Dearborn working, I think maybe something around the airport, but I'm not sure. This is something that Jesse Kyle, who's their one manager, ended up mentioning to me, and he said this is, basically a perfect place to end up having things set. We're just going to have materials there and just truck things on over.
Well, I mean, $20,000 in income is always good, so I'm good with that. And the last question, and I'm not sure who would answer that one. Going through the contract, I noticed there was no provision in regard. I mean, it did say that they have to abide by all laws and regulations, what have you, of the city, but there was nothing mentioned specifically in regards to a certificate of occupancy.
Basically,
I'm going to tell you bluntly, I'm concerned about another Canfield situation.
Right. And this is one of the things that I actually spoke to Jesse Kyle about. He's supposed to talk to Mr. Sobo. Basically, compliance with law. D1 basically says that they're supposed to comply with everything that we have. So they're anticipating a soil erosion permit, and if it's necessary that there would be some sort of certificate of occupancy, particularly for the nature of the occupancy that's involved here, which is a partial occupancy of a portion of this property, then I'm sure Mr. Sobo would be able to address that issue with them in terms of anything that would need to be done. But they would have to comply. We just ended up having a overarching sort of compliance obligation in terms of them complying with all provisions of the law, including any valid law, ordinance, or regulation, any governmental authority, including those of the owner, which is us.
Right. And where my concern was is because we're the ones that are renting it to them, I just want to make sure, obviously, everything's to code and we have no type of liability.
Sure.
Because we own it, obviously.
And Mr. Soba, he knows that he's supposed to contact Mr. Soba about the potential for a soil erosion permit, and will have to comply with anything required as far as that goes. And if there's a certificate of occupancy requirement with respect to this particular use, I'm sure Mr. Soba will be able to administer that.
Thank you,
I have
Gary.
a question, too. What type of materials are they planning on storing there?
My understanding is the things that would end up going in for like dirt and
It's like a
stuff like that.
batch plant. So a batch plant, you're going to have...
concrete mixers.
Yeah.
Crushers.
Anything flammable?
I don't, could be that it's empty. There's no homes or anything around there.
Okay, just wondered. Any other discussion?
Madam Chairman, the mayor indicated that this property was the old incinerator plant, correct?
Yes.
Just so the residents know, and it was touched on briefly, exactly what is this property going to be used for? Exactly, and when we're renting it to a company to use for what?
It's a staging area.
It's a staging area.
For
Staging area.
construction.
Well, that
It's like
means-
when they're redoing freeways, they set up an area where they crush the concrete, remix, and unload material, wood, whatever. So that's what I get from reading this.
That is correct.
An industrial, like an industrial use.
They got a project going on, and they're
Is there
going...
anything in the contract that says that they have to do a soil test afterwards, make sure there's no contaminations or anything like that in the soil?
Well, here's the thing. The property had been previously contaminated when we had it. So this is something where, with regard to that, if that's really required by the law, then they would end up potentially having to do that. I don't believe that that would be required, at least based on what I know, because it's a property where they're just going to end up having this stuff stored. And essentially, if we wanted to sit here and say they have to comply with all environmental stuff and remediate and everything else, then I'm sure they'll just tell us, thanks but no thanks, we'll keep our $20,000.
Was there any consideration of the fact that there's a wetlands in the back of that property?
The area where this is covered, if you look at Exhibit 1 to the addendum, I don't believe that it would end up reaching that area that you're referring to.
They wanted to use the driveway, and so you have some remains of the plant in the parking lot, and that's where they're going to use this at. But it had toxic ash, because what ended up happening, and John serves on the CWSA board, and I'm the vice, or the alternate, but the toxic ash was removed, but not all of it. It was deemed that some of it was too expensive, and some of that ended up in our toxic landfill. Where's that? It's in
Huron Township.
Huron Township.
We have a monofill.
Monofill. So most of the bad stuff has been removed. So the intent is, it's part of the study for the Ecorse Creek Improvement Plan that the Army Corps of Engineers, and what they would do and what they expect to do on that property is it's intended to be a retention basin. And if it was going to be, if the project was going to happen real quick, we would not have granted the authority, but it's giving us $20,000 that we don't have now, and I don't see where they're going to hurt the property.
It's not like we're going to throw a party there.
Right, and they may have an interest in using the property again in the future. So, vacant property where we're getting $20,000 for 10 months is pretty nice return. Exactly. Yeah.
You mentioned that's going to be a retention basin.
If I may,
studies done to where you can retain water for a period of time and release it into the Ecorse Creek. Is that going to be safe for that? You said that the land is partially still contaminated.
Oh yeah, that's been revealed and included in the Army Corps of Engineers study.
And technically, I think it's a detention basin as opposed to retention basin.
Yeah.
There's a technical difference, but I don't know that we need to go there.
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Councilman.
I had a question, Councilor Gary. With the clause I, 1.1 and 1.2, the indemnification and limitation, is that enough? I mean, you mentioned the contamination, which I didn't know about. So in terms of liability, being that they're using it, and God forbid, whatever it is that can happen, I'm not an expert in that particular field, but is that enough to cover us in terms
Yeah,
of
and
liability?
I actually was in a position where I had it, I was willing to end up allowing for it to be Deponio's improper or negligent performance or non-performance. The addition of those words, up to that point, was almost strict liability, and then, so they had a problem with that. And I think that was a reasonable request on their part to
I'm
ask
just
that
saying, in
that be
terms of the
changed.
contamination, will that be an issue as far as putting us in a liability situation
I don't
as far as
believe
the city's
so.
concerned?
No, I think that we've had appropriate closures with regard to anything having to do with the contamination long ago. And especially with what they are doing, I'm not expecting that it will end up creating any sort of a problem with regard to that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, just one thing, a quick question, trying to make it, if with us being the owner, and if somebody else would be operating it, are we liable if somebody goes on the property, like any kids or anything like that, and gets harmed?
You mean in terms of if they're harmed by?
Yeah, by the contamination or anything like that.
I'm not expecting that there would end up being a problem with that, Councilman. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but given the closures that have already been received, as I understand it, we had closures on that property a long time ago.
I mean, the hot spot is where the plant used to be, kind of under the cement, and so it's
There's
kind
cement.
of, it's down under.
Yeah, that's
I think
why it
it's
was.
got an insurance here, they've got a rider for.
Exactly.
On page 3, it spells it out for the insurance that they're keeping up. Policies for, premises to the property, automobile insurance coverage of fire and everything. I think it's pretty well covered in there.
Okay.
Thanks
Any
a lot.
other
Thank you.
discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Next on the agenda is from the Assessor's Office, 2018 Poverty Exemption Policy and Guidelines Approval.
Madam Chair, I move that we concur with our assessor, Anthony Foucault, and approve the 2018 Poverty Exemption Policy and Guidelines as outlined and attached in 9E. Support.
Councilman Muscat. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Next on the agenda is from Fire Chief Brogan, request to join CLEMIS as a Fire Records Management System participating member.
Mr. Chair,
Muscat?
I move council concur with Chief Brogan's request to join Clemens as a FRMS participant member. The annual cost is $6,619 to come out from contractual services, and payment to be made after corporate counsel reviews the contract as outlined in 9F.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I have a question. What is that?
Councilman Watts.
Clemens?
Chief Brogan?
Yeah, Clemens is the CAD system. That's how all of our units are dispatched. And so we're already a member of Clemens as a city. The police department pays, I think Chief Gavin said, $68,000 or so for the police side of it, but the fire doesn't have any access to that number except to pick up the phone and call a dispatch center. So this will get us access to the information, so we can use it for all of our. I mean, there's lots of reasons why we need that data, but that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
I'll just explain real quick. We've had Clemens for years. It's our computer system. So right now when our dispatchers call the fire department, it's on the phone, and those records aren't transferable. So when when Chief gets that system over there, then they'll be able to integrate with all our numbers and reports and all that stuff.
Perfect. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Next, also from Chief Brogan, request to purchase workout equipment.
Mr. Chair,
Muscat?
I move City Council approve the Request to purchase workout equipment for station number 1 and headquarters. The equipment is from Rogue Fitness, totals $11,023.17. Roughly $6,067.37 for a total of $17,090.54. The AFG operations grant will cover $13,500, and the remaining $3,590.54 to come out of capital outlay as outlined in 9G.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Sure.
Madam Chair?
I watched our firemen work out this past summer when I was over there, and they need equipment. The way they work out, these guys stay in tip-top shape, and I'll tell you what, we better be glad that they stay in tip-top shape, too. They do a great job, and anything to help them stay in shape.
Madam Chair? Ladies first.
I'm tagging each other. Oh, yeah, I just wanted, it is noted in the cover letter, but I think we should publicly thank members of our community for their support. That's probably what you were going to say, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Including Ali Sayed from Hype and Al Ferris from Dearborn Racket Club, because they had donated rubber flooring and several pieces of cardio equipment, as well as weightlifting equipment for the stations. And so thank you to those individuals and their support. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just want to clarify just a little bit as far as what happened there. I happened to stop by the South Heights Fire Station one time on my way to the South Heights Neighborhood Association meeting, and honestly, I was so disappointed that our fire department had such terrible equipment as far as the gym is concerned. So then I went back to the one on Beach Daily and looked at that one, and again, same thing with terrible equipment. So I started making some calls to different members of the community, and in this case specifically, Ali Sayed of Hype and Al Ferris of Dearborn Racket Club, and I said, look, do me a favor, come out and we'll go look at these two places with the chief, and you look at them, and if you guys are okay with it, we'll leave it alone, but if you guys are not okay with it, let's do something for our firefighters. And these guys were great. I mean, the amount of stuff that they donated, honestly, was just absolutely beautiful, what they did. And I went back there right around Christmas time and seen all the equipment that they put in, and all the guys were all excited about it. They were moving stuff around and what have you. It looks, I think, Chief, you'd agree, 1,000 times better. And they have a lot better equipment. Now they're in the process of getting a new heating unit. I mean, stuff that was there was Greenfield Village material, and you could not call it, workout equipment, not by any stretch of the imagination. And now they have Stairmasters, I mean, all kinds of good stuff. What are you guys charging per month now for residents that want to join your club?
$35 a month for council members, no.
What was that?
It's $35 a month for council members.
Okay.
It's a deal, no. And we want to thank you too, Councilman O'Dell. You're the one that spearheaded all this and got everyone together. And Ali from Hype, obviously, he knows so much. We have quite a few guys who are really into fitness. As a matter of fact, I think you saw in here, we're hosting, the International Association of Firefighters has a pure fitness workout program, and that gets into more than just the working out, all the injury prevention. They do 12 leads, they check our blood pressure, all of our vitals, and so they'll start you out. If you need to start just walking on a treadmill, they can find a workout for every one of our members to try to make sure that everyone's safe and injury-free. So.
Yeah, thank you, Chief.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Next on the agenda is from Parks and Recreation Director Greibel, Spirit 2018 Festival Liquor License Application.
Madam Chair, I move we concur with Recreation Director Ken Greibel and approve the application for a liquor license for our Spirit Festival from Thursday, June 7th to Sunday, June 10th, as outlined in 9H.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Councilman Abdel opposes. The ayes have it, motion carried. Next on the agenda is Public Service Administrator Zimmer, sewer lining change order number 13 from Lanzo Lining Incorporated.
Madam Chair?
Councilman Aldell.
I'd like to concur with DPW Director William Zimmer to change order number 13 from Lanzo Lining, Inc. for sewer lining services at various locations throughout our city at no cost increase. This sewer lining program is extremely valuable in our approval, to allow Lanzo Lining, Inc. to proceed with this year's project for a total cost not to exceed $350,000. Funds for this program have been allocated in the 2017-2018 Water Department budget as outlined in 9I.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries. Next on the agenda is from Ordinance Enforcement Director McIntyre, Ordinance Tablet Docking Stations and In-Car Printers.
Ms. Chair,
Councilman Muscat.
I move council concur with Ordinance Officer Director Jack McIntyre in the purchase of the last 3 vehicles that need to have the in-car printers placed into the cars at for the total cost of $16,862, which in that is also included the $10,538 that we approved 2 weeks ago, as outlined in 9J.
Support.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries. Next, we have from Community and Economic Development Director Hatcham, CDBG FY 2015 Good Neighbor Program.
Madam Chair.
23417 Joy Road demolition invoice.
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Hicks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to concur with Mr. Hashem, Director for Community Economic Development Department, the payment for the attached invoice number 677 Macmillan Group, Inc. The amount is $9,800. This is for fiscal year 2015 CDBG Good Neighbor Program for address 23417 Joy Road demolition as submitted, 9K.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair?
Councilman Ebdal.
Just a question for Director Hashem. What happens with the vacant lot after that? We put that up for sale, is that correct?
What we did in our department, basically demolished the property. Director McIntyre will be taking over from that point. It's a city-owned property to begin with. Yeah. So what plans they have for it, I have no idea. It will be up to Jack McIntyre, the director of the ordinance department.
Okay.
This tip came from him, actually, and we helped him out with the money. We had some
I don't know why it was on again.
Demolition.
Maybe required.
And it'll be up to the city administration and the director.
Okay, thank you.
Because she signed.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Next, we have from Administrative Assistant Laszlo, the revised purchase agreement of 23510 Hanover under the Hazard Mitigation Grant.
Madam Chair?
Councilman Ebdal.
I move we concur with Administrative Assistant Christina Laszlo with the purchase agreement written by Assistant Corporation Counsel Harry Kalagirakos for the property at 23510 Hanover. We had originally approved the purchase amount of $100,000 per motion 17-238, which is attached, and the homeowner exercised their right to seek an additional appraisal after review by the state and an independent appraiser approved the new value of $131,000, which a copy is attached. And at this particular point, we have to approve the purchase agreement for the new amount of $131,000 and further ask the body to authorize the closing costs not to exceed $2,500 and the property taxes associated with the parcel as outlined in item 9L.
Support.
Councilman Muscat seconded it. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Councilman Muscat?
This is something I believe we had already done, but I think all we're doing now is approving the purchase agreement, if I'm correct.
New amount. The new amount.
Yeah, for the new amount.
Right.
Just to make myself clear.
Right.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Next, we have ordinances and resolutions.
Madam Chair.
Councilwoman Hicks?
Okay, 11A, I move to adopt the resolution presented by Mayor Dan Paleco to support Senate Bill 400. And I want to thank you for this, because as outlined in 11A, because it's about local control. Thank you.
Support.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
All set? Now, I just wanted to get a little bit more information on this from the mayor. I think it'd be nice, especially for the residents, to get a clarification as far as what one of the senators is attempting to do, because I know we're not going to read the resolutions too long, but maybe abbreviation, unless Senator David wants to fill us in.
I'm glad you gave me a wait, because we were both at the American Legion, I think, a week or two ago, and I brought this up. When I wrote this particular resolution, it asked that you don't vote for any amendments, but let me indicate to Jordan from the CW cities of Western Wayne, indicated there is a procedural adjustment that's needed. What we're objecting to is that we would not be able to have a 911 center unless his amendment says you must have 100,000 people you're servicing by 2023 and 150,000 by 2028. That would put us literally out of business. And as the councilwoman indicate, completely remove local control. I did do some calling up there and some research, and I found out that this is being spearheaded by the Michigan State Police. Apparently, there's 2 distribution centers, call centers in the UP, and as a result of that, the Michigan State Police think that there ought to be fewer call centers. So that's where the motivation's coming. How Senator Lauer became the mover and shaker in this particular numbers thing, I don't know, because I don't think he's been there that long, if I'm correct. So I'm glad you're here, but the resolution asked you to not support those kind of numerical ones, and I know you'll help us out.
Yes, sir. I can talk to you on it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your opinion on it.
Any other discussion? Senator Neese?
So admittedly, I was trying to pull up the bill number on my phone because we've got about 1,000 bills that are out there right now. So just off the top of my head, the numbers don't.
Your name is Dave, so you're smart.
Yeah, thank you. But hearing the mayor talk about it, you know, what I think the state police are trying to do is they do have a situation in the Upper Peninsula that they're trying to address, but in doing so, trying to apply this one-size-fits-all solution is going to negatively affect the communities that we have down here. So what I want to make sure of as far as in terms of the resolution, Senate Bill 400, I don't know who the sponsor is off the top of my head, but then hearing the mayor talk about Lauer is a state representative. So I want to make sure we're talking about the right number, because the rep wouldn't be able to introduce a Senate bill. If it is 400.
They've got to hear Senator James Lauer.
I maybe got misinformation.
Okay.
But what he was attempting to do, because the Senate passed Senate Bill 400, but it's going to come back for an adjustment. There's a timing problem in the language when it was originally written. So like all of us in communities, we would lose about 60 days of 911 monies. Mm-hmm. So that correction is going to come in, and we would want you to support that. It's just the numerical limitation on being able to operate and get funding for your 911 call center. That's where our objection is.
Sure, no problem. If my phone was alive, I'd be able to talk about it more. I apologize.
That's okay. Appreciate your help. Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Our next one under ordinances and resolutions is from Mayor Paleco. First reading of proposed ordinance number H-18-02, amending the zoning map and district boundaries.
Madam Chair.
Councilman?
I move we concur with our corporation counsel and Jeff Clark and Mayor Pletko, and have ordinance number H-18-02 considered read for the first time.
Support.
As outlined in 11B.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilman Muscat. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, I just want to acknowledge the mayor on this, because I spoke with one of the attorneys on this, and I guess the main thing with this particular item 11B is they want to put up signs advertising. Now, my background is in marketing, so I believe in marketing, but they want to put the large billboard signs on Ford Road in Dearborn Heights, and you oppose that. So I just want to acknowledge you and say that's a great idea to oppose this, and I thank you for it.
Thank you.
Gary, isn't this also part because of the Supreme Court decision, and there can't, be any restrictions on political speech?
Actually, I was not involved. I remember when this matter ended up arising, but I did not review the actual all the legal arguments with respect to this. This ended up being assigned to Jeff Clark through MMRMA, and then Mark Roberts, who is involved in the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Commission issues, actually drafted the ordinance. So unfortunately, I cannot address the issues that you're specifically raising.
The owner is out of Ohio, and he wanted to take one or two of the billboards he currently has on Telegraph that are on the west side of the road that is hard for people going northbound to see. And what he wanted to do was, one, very clearly would have been very disruptive, I think, for people driving, but he wanted to stick it right around Gully and Ford Road, and he wanted to change it where it's similar to the one, and he owns this one near
Telegraph near Van Born, right?
Yeah.
Telegraph in like Annapolis.
Annapolis, where it
By the
changes.
McDonald's.
Right.
And one is, I think those are unsightly, particularly, and number two was the traffic conditions and everything else. It just was not a good fit. Yeah, so we opposed it, and then it was out of that became the settlement, which I think the community can live with.
It says some of the ordinance language contains in the city's sign ordinance may be dated and may be unconstitutional under recent Supreme Court decisions. But that may have been just part of it, the settlement with the billboard owner.
Well, that's all he does is billboards. He lives in central Ohio, but he owns a lot of billboards in Michigan. I met him and talked to him, and
he's been to some of the Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, he's very active, and you got the right guy.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I have a comment or question, Mayor.
Councilman Wenzel?
The billboard that's on Telegraph in Annapolis right now, that was moved from a previous location that he had, right? Is that correct?
I'm not sure, because he bought those locations from another individual, and he told me that he has 6 or 8 of them that were already predetermined. One is, I believe, at the location at Gully and Michigan Avenue, which has really created problems because that thing is there's not a lot of space on that old gas station, and now you got that billboard in there too, which further restricts. But he bought 6 or 8 of them, what he's told me. He's not the original person to put that together, but that's how he makes a living. He's really knows his stuff about this, and that's all he does. That protects his interests. But other than that, I'm not sure who originally got the permission. We went through a sign ordinance many years ago and highly restricted, tried to outlaw them all, which is probably why part of it was unconstitutional. I mean, we came to a decision as a council, as a city, we didn't want them at all.
So what's the final word? Can someone put up a new billboard in Dearborn Heights right now, according to our ordinances?
I don't believe so, right, Mohammed?
No, we still have an ordinance against that.
Okay, but they can relocate one that they already own?
That one's been there for some time.
Yeah, but I think that was put in after the ordinance, wasn't it, Mohammed?
Yes, I think that's a special case for those 2 signs, okay, where we went to court and they allowed him to relocate to other areas, to specific areas. I cannot recall which ones. I think from Fort Worth to Telegraph, somewhere in that area.
I think they allowed him, I heard on, I think on Southfield.
There's someone on Southfield.
Yeah.
That's one of them, Southfield, and all the way down by Dearborn.
So, did we open up a can of worms by letting him move one in the first place? Are we going to have an issue with fighting him to relocate? Or are they zoned in a specific area, or how's that work?
The zoning ordinance still exists, okay, that no billboards are to be erected, and there's a limitation of the height.
This may be something that Mark and I had talked about.
So basically, you can't put a billboard up anymore in Dearborn Heights.
Communities, it might be something we should be looking at.
Yeah.
Our sign stuff.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, motion carried. Next on the agenda is communication from Great Lakes Water Authority, Board of Directors public hearing on the proposed FY 2019 wholesale water service charges.
Chair.
Receive, note, and file.
Chair, I move to receive, note, and file this item, and I would like to request, can this information be posted on the website, just the city website, in case residents might be interested in attending this meeting?
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Councilman Constant. Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Next on the agenda is new business. Business license renewal for Mogul Incorporated at 2810 South Beach Daily.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Muscat?
I move council approve the business license for Mogul Incorporated, Milton M. Small, 2801 South Beach Daily Road, Dearborn Heights, as outlined in 13A.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Next, is there any comments from the table tonight?
Madam Chair?
Councilman Abdul?
Just one I just happened to notice. I just want to compliment our police chief for hiring, congratulations to the new female police officers. So it's great to see more and more female police officers, so I love that, so thank you.
This is Emily Murdoch. We swore in a couple months ago. She's doing midnights, working midnights right now, but she's a great addition to our force.
Yes.
So that's our cause.
So thank you, Chief.
She's a local product. Aren't you a graduate of a local high school?
Yes, sir, Divine Child.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Muscat?
I just want to reach out and say thank you to the DPW for the yeoman's work they did this past week with the snow plowing, the cars that they had to maneuver around that were parked in the street, to the point where they couldn't even drive down the street. Had to back up, turn around, go around the block. I watched them do that, watched ordnance vehicles get stuck. I urge everybody in the city, we all know it's 3 inches of more of snow, you get your cars off the road. We go down the street, we see cars that have got 2 feet, 3 feet of snow around them. I don't understand why you're leaving your car out there. I implore you to please move them just for the safety of the community and to get the snow away from the fire hydrants. I go down the street and some of these fire hydrants are completely buried. You can't find any of them. On that note, though, Mr. Mayor, how is it, it was brought to my attention today, about how do we know when the snow emergency has been canceled? We know when they come on because the sirens go on, and sometimes we see it on the news, but how do we know it's over? Is there a mechanism that we can do to let everybody know that the snow emergency is over and we can continue parking on the street?
Well, we can post that, but I'm not sure everybody's going to go to the website.
Well, people don't go to the website to see that we have an emergency.
I'm gonna meet with Bob Antcrap and Bill Zimmer, and let's talk about how to. That's a good point. Right now, I'm not sure we have a good.
Well, I mean, social media would be a good spot, obviously, like, Facebook and what have you.
The other thing is we get complaints all the time. I'm sure my colleagues here have received them all of, why aren't the police out there ticketing these cars? Well, I assure you, the police is working as much as they possibly can to go around the city, and and they're trying to be nice about it too, is notifying the owners, hey, move your car, give you a little bit of time to dig it out, move it out. But I assure the residents that the police department is enforcing that law. They are. So if you get caught and you get a ticket, can't complain. So thank you to our police department, and they worked awfully hard also along with DPW.
I'd like to compliment that too, that DPW did a great job this weekend as a resident, as a chief. They did good with the streets. We had some issues behind Crestwood in that area, the Seven Oaks. A lot of cars still parked in the streets. What we did is we had the officers go out, heavily enforce Sunday night, and then Public Works come in Monday morning. They went back to that area to get the streets all cleaned up. In regards to cancellation or snow emergency, our emergency manager, Bob Antcrap, usually puts it out on social media. We keep track at the police station for the court when it was issued, and then it was canceled, for people that are contesting tickets. But like the mayor said, we'll work with Bob to get a better system, but we usually get it out on, the cable TV and that.
Right, thank you. And the other thing is, folks, that, we're out there shoveling 3 and 4 times to keep up with this heavy snow. Our DPW workers have to do the same thing at their homes. So, they're working double duty. They're out working, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all around the clock trying to keep our streets clean. But they got to go home and clean their houses off too. So they need a big round of applause as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to add on to what Councilman Muscat had said, and I want to thank our Chief of Police, Chief Gavin, as well as your officers and our school boards, as well as the superintendents for our schools, because there was concern with safety with students walking on the sidewalks that weren't shoveled. A lot of our students do walk, and there was concern about them walking in the street because walking through 10 inches of snow or so. So again, I want to thank you for looking out for the safety of our students. Thank you for everyone working together to resolve that. As well as I know ordinance, I don't want to forget you because I know you were out on Monday working very hard to address those issues. So thank you as well.
Mr. Zimmer?
Yeah, I appreciate the kudos, and I would like to add mine as well. These guys could easily at 2 o'clock in the morning when they're warm in their bed see the phone and know that it's the boss. They could easily just ignore it, but they don't. They come in, and I appreciate that. Also, one of the big problems we've had, particularly this last snow, is people putting the snow back in the road. When you have a volume of snow like that, it's just like the road hasn't been plowed. So we really need to do something about that.
That's a good point.
This is true.
Good point.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Bazey?
I guess I'll give some more kudos to a few more departments. Again, both the police department and the fire department, they both participated in a great event at Crestwood. Thank you so much. That was a very important event, a safe event last Friday. And they talked about first responders of various issues with the opioid usage, which is an epidemic. Not just in our country, but in the state of Michigan. It's one of the highest, I think it's the 6th largest epidemic here in the U.S. And also they talked about active shooters and the things that both the police department and the fire department were engaged in the discussion. Really commend both departments being active with that. I've seen it on the military side. We engaged the communities around the base or the the actual residents that live on or near the base. But you guys, I mean, one of the first that I've seen in this area. Thank you. And also the Chief Brogan, I want to commend again the fire department. For the last few years, I mean, I've been on the Dearborn Memorial Day Parade. I'm one of the committee members, and this year I'm the commander. And I've heard various residents asking, how come Dearborn Heights doesn't participate in this parade, since it's the largest in Michigan and the 4th largest in the U.S. And I approached Chief Brogan, and he was like, hey, we'll bring some fire trucks, we'll put them in the parade. Thank you again. I guess next is Chief Gavin. We'll see if he's going to take that on as well. Thank you.
Is there any other comments from the table tonight?
Madam Chair,
Councilman.
I also would like to thank Bill Zimmer and the DPW. I think our streets were plowed first. You did an excellent job.
We're going to have to take up on that one. His street gets
Wait a minute, how come he's first?
You know, I hate to leave anybody out, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention. We've also had 72 water main breaks since the 1st of January, and they come in every day. So, and kudos to our water department as well.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the table tonight? Next, I'll ask for any public announcements concerning community events.
Hello, Council Chair and Mayor. I just want to talk about a couple of upcoming events at the library. February through April, we will be having genealogy help. Interested in exploring your family's past? Members of the Dearborn Genealogical Society will be available to help you research your family using Ancestry.com and other websites. Programs are at both libraries. There's multiple dates and times, so I don't want to list them all here. Please check our website at www.dhcl.mishlibrary.org or call 313-791-3800 for more information. Also, Wednesday, February 14th, which is tomorrow, at 7 p.m. at Carroll & Candy Library, we will be having a program, Tai Chi for Everyone. If you ever wanted to look into Tai Chi pays attention to the ancient Chinese wisdom of exploring the mind and body connection. The practice of Tai Chi can help reduce stress, increase flexibility, and improve muscle strength. So come on out, take a gander. That's all for now. Thank you for your time, and see you at the library. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, hello. For the record, Diane Webb. I appreciate this opportunity. First, I want to say this is the first meeting that I've watched of your new board, and you think you guys been here forever. You just do a fantastic job of facilitating the meeting. You're all doing an outstanding job. I'm very impressed. For brand new council people, you really hit the floor running, so that's a great job. I just want to let you know that it's just been brought to my attention about the kids walking in the street along the golf course. And because that property is still in flux and the deal's not closed, I take it that they haven't been maintaining that sidewalk. So the kids that are leaving Riverside Middle School are forced to walk in the street. Your school board member, Sue Kaminsky, just made me aware of that. So I sent a text message while I was here, just so you didn't think I was doing something besides, paying attention or working for Dearborn Heights. I was sending a text message to the director of parks to take care of that. So I am not certain, from their understanding, it's something that the county has historically maintained. Is that your understanding here? That
Yes.
it's something that the county has historically maintained? Okay, well, yeah, that's not acceptable, because that's really endangers the kids there. And I don't know that I'd want to walk. I mean, we've all heard from our parents how they walked home in the snow for a foot deep, right? So we really don't want to, uphill, right? Yeah. So we don't want the kids to have to walk through a foot of snow or try to get around it by walking in the street and endanger themselves and so anyway, just wanted to let you know that that's been brought to my attention and addressed, and I'm here if any of you have any issues. Anything new?
We need her vote.
Not yet, but
Okay, yes.
Commissioner, anything new on the Beach Daily and Inkster Street? A lot of the potholes are still there.
They're out there every day on Beach Daily. I bet I get 3 or 4 emails a day as it relates to the potholes on Beach Daily. And I want to encourage people to call 1-888 Crew. Call Road Crew, make a report. And the reason that I'm asking you to do this is because I've been fighting for the resurfacing of that road for years, right? And the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So I can sit there and scream about it year after year after year. Me and 15 other commissioners, we have over 4,000 miles of road and that we're responsible for. And you know, Michigan's roads are terrible everywhere, not just in Wayne County, but really across the region. And so the fight for those dollars is incredible. Now that road has finally made the list. It was terrible for several years before it was even on the list. It's finally made the list, but it'll still probably take, according to that list, I would guess another 2 to 3 years before it gets replaced.
No way can it last.
It's a disaster. It's a disaster.
They might as well just turn it into a gravel road, reduce the speed to 15 miles an hour.
And grade it. I know, Ray, I drove it myself just to see, and you're copied on several of the emails that I get, so I know that you're
on it.
You're getting them too. Well, so what, but the thing is that at some point, remember Outer Drive? If you guys are familiar with Outer Drive, it used to have chunks of concrete like this, and we got it resurfaced 5 years before it was scheduled to be resurfaced because it got to a point where it was costing the county more to maintain it than it would to fix it. So I want to get this point, drive this point home, not only with all of you. So when you guys get calls from residents, please direct them to the road crew number. And this is why. When they report it, they're going to get a reference number, a service order number. Okay, so I want them to document that service order number and who they spoke with. If that pothole or that situation doesn't get resolved within a week's time, because they're buried, it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, they've got them. This is pothole season. They got them all over 43 cities. Okay, but if they don't get it within a week, you call my office or you send my office an email, and we'll go after it for you. Okay. But what it does is it covers you in case of a liability, a claim. So if you back out of your driveway, this one particular resident who lives right on Beach Daily in the midst of how bad it is, that's who we're getting all these emails. And she's excellent about reporting them because they are a safety hazard. You know, as you're driving, you're dodging them. You're going to try, you could get into an accident trying not to blow out a tire or break a tie rod on your vehicle. So, or you could actually hit one and cause an accident. So either way, you know, you're danged either way. But if you call and you make the report and you have the number, then the county isn't covered and protected under the immunity. Public Act 222 is government immunity. So what that says is if government doesn't know you have a problem, you don't report it, they're not responsible to fix it. But if you report it and you've got a claim number, now they're responsible to fix it. So if you break a tie rod, you get into a car accident, somebody's hurt, then they're on the hook, okay, to repair your car and to fix it. And the other purpose that it serves is it builds a record, a paper trail on how many complaints, and then it forces them to document the cost of all of these repairs, and it helps me fight them to get the road resurfaced. So by all means, call the heck out of them, blow the phone up.
Well, Mr. Mayor, for a lot of residents, though, and like I was one of them prior to getting on the council. I mean, you don't know which street is for the county, which street is for the city. So maybe adding that number or the link on our website.
That's an excellent idea.
Because I don't know who owns which street.
And that information is available on our website. And like, for example, I know in the city of Livonia, and so this might be something you want to steal from them, they put out in their newsletters a map of all of the roads, and then they color code them. What's a state road? What's a city road? What's a county road?
We did that.
And then people can keep
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah, and you could even have it available maybe on your website or.
Did that once.
Did you do that? Yeah, it's a good idea to.
Because people don't know who owns which road.
You're absolutely right, and if they have a question about that too, they can always call our office too, and we can tell them. I mean, I know them all by heart, but.
Well, I'm saying this because most residents think that the city owns all the roads.
Oh, sure.
You know. So we
You know,
get the
and
complaints.
we always thought that they thought we owned all the roads
Yeah.
because we get all the complaints. But I want them to call and report it to the road crew number to protect themselves in case they ever have a claim, and to build this case. You know, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease. It just has, if they get this overwhelmed, how did we stop them from developing the golf course? Because they got 2,000 letters written into their offices, and they said, oh, geez, the public is totally against this. So that's how we stopped it. And so, you know, and you stepped in and kept it in the public domain, and I commend all of you for that. That's the only way you can really get things done, especially right now. I'll tell you, the county's down. We have 550 vacancies that we cannot fill at the county. We have 123 vacancies in the Department of Public Services, 170 in our Sheriff's Department. Those are the two heaviest hit departments. And, you know, until they pay comparable wages and offer comparable benefits to local governments, they're not going to get the people. We have lost so many of our people to local governments. So, you know, and unfortunately, we've had fatalities on our road crews and in our jails because of it. So it's a public safety issue too. But until we raise the awareness of the importance of these things, they're not going to address them. So,
Commissioner, you said that report a pothole to the 888 road crew. And you said once you report it, it's documented, and they have someone that damages their car, they might have a case. How long does the county have to repair that pothole before they'd be liable for a car repair?
if you call it in and and you got a reference number, anybody makes a claim on that pothole, and they have a reference number, there's a report on it, then immediately, as soon as there's a report on it. I mean, to do the repair from the time it's reported, I mean, I would imagine they'd probably have a 24-hour period.
That's soon, huh?
Yeah, I would think so, because it's there's a lot of, if they're dangerous situations, they're supposed to be keeping up on them themselves. But like I say, there's just no way with that 4,000 miles of road or better under their, jurisdiction, and 123 people short. And then this time of year is just horrific. I want to double check that time period for you to see. That's probably a question for an attorney, for corp counsel at the county. So I'm going to verify that. But I know, like with potholes specifically, but I know with like when they're doing, we had a situation where it was really windy in October, and a car was driving down Pennsylvania Road, and the wind caught one of our signs, our road closed signs, lifted the sign up and slammed it into a car. Okay, so because the sandbags weren't properly put, you see the sandbags on the bottom, they weren't properly put out there, right? So that claim, that happened, and they were instantaneously liable. There was a report on it, and they were liable. So, but with a pothole, since there's so many, they might have an extended window. So I'm going to look into that and report back to you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Any
there's
other
a
questions?
public highway exception to governmental immunity, but that's just the policy of the county. I mean, if they, I know other counties, if you hit a pothole, you or your insurance pay for it. So that's good of Wayne County to have this system.
Well, they do have a claim. Now, just because they have the system doesn't mean they say, okay, how much do we owe you? Because they're still going to fight you every which way to Sunday. That's why I'm telling you that you want to get that service order number.
Absolutely.
Cover your own self. Any other questions for me tonight?
Any other questions for Commissioner Webb?
Okay, seeing that all of you have a wonderful Valentine's Day.
Thank you, Commissioner. Senator?
2 minutes.
So real quick, I'll say Mr. Dishman was nice enough to let me borrow his phone so I could look up Senate Bill 400. I'm going to get with the board, the council, and the mayor afterwards, and probably Conference of Western Wayne. Senate Bill 400 deals with the surcharge fee increase to help fund Next Generation 911. Right. Something that we had voted in favor of initially. And so if the House is making those tweaks, obviously we want to make sure that we can have that sort of language stripped out moving forward. What I will say, just to double up on what Commissioner Webb talked about, about. Last week, Governor Snyder presented his fiscal year 2019 budget to the legislature. As you know, the House and Senate now will go in and begin making our tweaks, kick both of those budgets out of the House and the Senate, and then we'll meet for a conference committee to try and iron out the differences. From a municipal standpoint, we should continue to be concerned by the fact that we are not going to see the revenue sharing increases that we've lost over the last decade. And that's something that I know organizations like MML, Conference of Western Wayne, the Michigan Townships Association, and others are continuing to push to make sure that we can recoup the significant dollars that we've lost over the last 10 years through some of the changes to our constitutional and statutory revenue sharing provisions. The governor did include in his budget a $175 million increase to his road funding plan that was passed in 2015. I'll just briefly remind folks, back in 2015, the legislature adopted a new road funding plan. I had actually voted in opposition to that plan. It was a $1.2 billion funding project. $600 million of that $1.2 billion was going to come by the way of increased gas taxes and increased registration fees. You maybe don't see the gas taxes when you go to the pump because things are fluctuating, but if you've gone in to renew your vehicle, you should have seen a pretty big spike in your increases. So $600 million of that $1.2 billion comes from these increased taxes and fees. That's why I voted against it. I think we're getting taxed enough. The other half of that $1.2 billion comes from, and I quote, future unspecified general fund cuts to be implemented by 2021. 2021 is a key number. It was passed in 2015. It goes into effect 2021, 6 years after the fact. Why is that important? Every legislator who's in office in 2015 will be out of office by 2021. It becomes somebody else's problem. They keep kicking the can down the road. The other point of concern for that is this $1.2 billion funding package. The governor had commissioned his own infrastructure study last year. It came back saying that the state of Michigan needs to increase our funding upwards of $4 billion every year. So by 2021, we're going to be $2.8 billion short of where we're supposed to be today. That $175 million kicker that the governor is putting in is trying to speed up the allocation of those funds, but I think if we're being forthright with one another and honest with one another, this is not going to bring about the changes and the improvements in our roads that we need. Plus, you take into consideration, I'm so sorry to be like Debbie Downer tonight, this is for state trunk lines. This is not trickling down, another one of my least favorite phrases, trickling down into our local governments to be able to fix our local roads, nothing into our county roads, which of course then go into funding our township roads. So I hope that we can continue the conversation about that here. Finally, I'll say 6 years ago now when I came into office, began the conversation about the two veterans homes that we have here in the state of Michigan, one out in Grand Rapids, one up in Marquette. Here in Wayne County, Oakland and Macomb, we have the largest concentration of veterans in the whole state, no home to serve them. 660,000 veterans in the state, 11th largest veterans population in the country. Back at the end of 2016, I was finally able to get legislation passed that would have expanded the number of veterans homes here in the state of Michigan, 5 brand new veterans homes, $50 million a pop, 200 jobs per facility, and an extra $250 million investment in Michigan veterans here in the state of Michigan. I've been pushing for that initial home that's going to be constructed in 2019, selfishly, to be here in my district. Had some great conversations with the mayor and with Chrissy about trying to identify property here in the city of Dearborn Heights. The state was looking for just a little bit of a different makeup than what we had to offer here in Dearborn Heights, and we're hoping within the next couple of weeks to have a property identified here in the Tri-County area so we can open those homes for veterans. It was a great partnership with the folks here on council, with the mayor's office, folks who are working in collaboration with me to make sure that we could get that done. I just want to make sure that we could bring the folks here in the community up to speed on that. If there's any comments, questions, or concerns from the council, the mayor's office, anybody in the audience, well, like I said, we're going through that budget process now. More than happy to be a partner on things that you are concerned about. And like the chair said, like Commissioner Webb said, if you don't know, just pick up the phone and ask. We're more than happy to field any questions that you have. We have everything from unemployment, health and human services stuff, to questions that I would not even repeat at a city council meeting. So don't feel like there's that wall between the legislators in Lansing and at the county, and certainly here at the city. If you have a question, even if it's not in our wheelhouse, we're not looking to kick you to somebody else. We want to try and help you resolve that issue as well. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other public announcements concerning events in the city? At this time, we will open up to the audience. Any comments? Please come up to the podium, state your name, address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. At 2 minutes and 30 seconds, Pro Tem Bill Bazey, here to my left, will raise his hand. When he lowers his hand to the table, finish your sentence and let the next person talk. And also, please try not to repeat what someone else has already addressed. Go ahead. Anybody?
Hi, my name is Tamara Watt. I'm a current employee with the City of Dearborn Heights. As you can see here, we have many members of our union that want to know the actions that the City Council members are going to take to rectify an agreement document 1621 that was approved by Council on 12/12/17 that contained many unilateral changes that were not on the signed tentative agreement signed by both the city's representatives. This is including, and I have the document here, this is what was presented to our union in October. It's got signed by the labor attorney. We have the human resource director, administrative assistant, and our union representatives. The tentative agreement was also prepared by the administrative assistant Laszlo, who gave it to the union representatives. This document that was presented to council on 12/12/17 was very different than the one that was presented to the union regarding this tentative agreement. Council has been aware of this issue and is also aware this is why the union representatives have not signed and will not sign the contract that was approved by council on 12/12/17. Council has known for over a month regarding this issue. And in the meantime, the city is paying attorney fees, as you can see on the claims that you approved tonight on 6-4 and 6-14. Between two attorneys, within 30 days, it's costing the city and taxpayers around $4,300 due to the TPOAM contract. If the union files unfair labor practice, it will cost the city hundreds and thousands of dollars in legal fees and attorneys. The union would like to know what actions the city council members are willing to take on this issue.
Council Chair? Yeah.
Councilman Muscat?
This is touchy because we get onto the situation of being a closed meeting and open meeting because it deals with contracts. I know I am well aware of what's going on, and we have numerous conversations back and forth between myself. I think I've spoken to the mayor in his office. I've spoken with Council Chair Denise Malinowski-Maxwell on it, and we have to tread very lightly on what our next step's going to do in a public forum. We also are liable to an Open Meetings Act and could be held liable if we divulge any information to the public that we're not allowed to. I don't want to jeopardize myself or my colleagues by saying anything. All I can tell you is it's being worked on, trying to figure out a way for us to bring it to light. And I'm just telling you from my perspective.
Can I ask you a question though? You were brought to light with the situation over a month ago.
Correct.
So at this point, we're just wondering, I mean, are you seeking outside of city, corporate, council, and legal?
That could be a possibility.
Okay.
Bizarre.
Right.
Well, again, I can't just come out and, as much as I'd like to be able to,
contract and then to decide on one.
as much as I'd like to tell you, I'm also putting myself in a bad position legally.
Council Chair.
Right.
Come to work tomorrow.
Every single one of us are scared coming up here right now.
I've spoken to people before, and you guys are, I can't tell you how much I sympathize with you being a union guy myself.
So I guess our question is, this is what was presented to us. This is what was presented to you. Two completely different things. This involves a lot of unilateral changes that we did not agree to. So you guys approved to this, so you guys can't do anything about tabling it, making a motion to agree to just this, and overseeing something like that? Is that what you're trying to find out?
It's a parliamentary procedure process that we have to go through, and I'm trying to gather as much information to do this as legally as possible. I'm not an attorney. I'm not. So I have to seek outside help for me. I'm not speaking for anybody else on this council, but for myself. And so I got to tread lightly of who I ask and, what my next steps to do, because I already know what I'd like to do. I'm not going to tell you what I'd like to do, but I know what I'd like to do. So, but I have to tread lightly, okay?
Councilman Abdel?
I don't know how else to say this more diplomatically than I have, without getting
I understand, but I've been here for 21 years, and this is beyond ridiculous.
At this point, we just want answers. Why?
Okay,
Why?
but just, the only thing I'd like to add on this is when we did have a meeting, and I just want to make sure from Council Gary, at the end, it was considered an open meeting at that time, so I can discuss.
That is correct. At the end, that was an open meeting.
And how was that even allowed? Just question.
By law, it's an open meeting unless you have a
But we
specific
were
reason
told it was
to
a
close.
closed meeting. It was on the agenda for a closed meeting.
There was not a basis to end up going into a closed
So
session.
then the public was not made aware of what was happening.
No, it would have been a violation of the law to end up having a closed session. It would have violated the Open Meetings Act. You don't violate the Open Meetings Act by having an open meeting. You violate the Open Meetings Act by having a closed meeting when you have no basis for a closed meeting. So essentially, what happened was the meeting had to be open because there was not a basis for a closed meeting.
Then why was it scheduled for a closed meeting? That's, I guess, what we're confused about. Because if we knew it was an open meeting, I think more people would have attended that.
I don't know that there was sufficient information among the people who wanted to be a closed meeting to end up having it be an open meeting, and then it was rectified at the meeting itself.
I know I called for a closed meeting because I thought since we were dealing with a contract that it would be a closed meeting. And I guess, we have newer members on the council. I guess I might be putting myself in a hot water by saying this, but since I thought it was a contract issue, we called for a closed meeting. And then at the midnight hour, our corporate counsel informed us that we couldn't have a closed meeting because it would violate the Open Meetings Act.
Not exactly.
Well,
I can't say, I can't end up saying anything more than that because of attorney-client privilege.
Yes, but that's where I'm getting at. I mean, but so it was a difficult situation for us, as much as it's more difficult for you because you guys are the ones that are living with the contract or lack of contract. And but that's all I can legally say without getting myself.
And you guys aren't getting any answers from the city representatives on why?
Just for clarification, we had two meetings that day. The first meeting was a closed meeting. That's one that we had with administration. That was a closed meeting. The second one, we had to switch it based on recommendation to an open meeting. But the only thing I want to address on that is during that meeting, it was, at least I can say my understanding, I can't speak on behalf of the others, when the union people were here and the administration were here, we understood that it was just a few words that needed to be changed because, well, I'm just telling you what we understood. So I'm just telling you what we understood.
No different now.
What we understood at the time, that this was a tentative agreement, there was all kinds of bullet points that had been agreed upon, and then when it went into a formal contract between the parties writing them, there was a little bit of a disagreement as far as the verbiage, not what they agreed on, but the verbiage, and there was just a couple of items that had been left to be ironed out. And
Well, let's clarify now that it is unilateral changes, that there is stuff in there that we did not agree upon, and not language. We're not talking about just language. We're talking about that we're not agreeing upon.
Okay, but I'm just saying, at that time, from us as council people, other than just recently, at least I'll speak for myself, until just recently when I've heard from different people without mentioning anybody, that's when we started to find out it's a little bit more than that. So at this particular point, the only reason we did not act, at least I did not act, is because we had understood from the mayor and the union, and I'm going to tell you right now, it was not, I'll just be blunt, it was not a shout out. I mean, everybody seemed to be get along, everybody seemed to be under the same understanding that it's just a matter of working out a couple of, in my business, I mean, we deal with contracts every day. It was a matter of working out a couple of different words here and there, and that they were in agreement, except, as I understood, I believe from either Chrissy or the mayor, I'm not sure honestly off the top of my head, was like about 2 or 3 little items that were left to be ironed out, and you guys were going to meet to clear them up.
Well,
that was our understanding.
I don't know what I can say and not say, but you can help us all, and Elizabeth can say if I'm wrong. We're having a lot of trouble setting up a meeting with Dave LaMontagne. So if you want to put pressure, you get him to meet with us.
Our president is here right now, and I guess from our understanding as a union, the city finally reached out to our union representative as of yesterday. And so at this point, I don't think the union...
Not true. We've been wanting to meet for 2 weeks. The problem is not with not wanting to meet. And it can get resolved, but it can't get resolved if we meet. I cannot meet with you. I can't meet with him at this point. I can meet with him if he's represented by his union, and that's the only way I can meet. So I'm like, I can't talk about it, but I'm telling you, we're not that far apart. And we, both Dave LaMontagne and I agree, but he's got to make himself available. He tells us he's representing 28 different unions. He's overworked.
So you're telling us right now, all of this union members, that we shouldn't believe our union and they're lying to us?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. On record. Wow. Okay, well, we're going to take the word from our union, and right now we're going to address the fact to city council on what they're going to do to rectify this situation, if they're going to, and if they're going to, how long can we expect this?
I just like to ask a question.
I
just want to ask just a quick question, Mr. Mayor. So last time when we had the meeting, the closed meeting and then the open meeting, and I remember everybody involved said they were going to meet together. You had a meeting, I think, set up a few days later, if I'm not mistaken. Chrissy and everybody else was involved. Has that meeting taken?
It's the
since we met when we were here.
Beth, myself, and Elizabeth.
It did take place?
No. Elizabeth.
What I'm saying, there was a meeting that was supposed to take place right after our meeting as a council. Did you guys have a meeting?
Let her talk.
Could you please come up to the microphone?
But it's not because we've not been available.
We have not met with the business agent, the city side. So there has been communication between our labor attorney, and it's been our belief with the business agent at the POAM.
We're available. We'll meet with them.
Yeah,
we didn't get reached until yesterday. That's what the union is staying by. So at this point, we just want to address council, and that's it.
Well, Council Chair, I think there are a few things, especially since I think that this is being presented in a misleading way. And I think that there are a few things that the members of the union need to also be aware of in this particular context. If we don't have an agreement, then all the raises that you've received, you're not entitled to. And we would be entitled to recoup them. Right now, you are being paid them because the city's position is that you, through your union, have ended up making an agreement with us based on representations that were made. And based on what the representations were, this body, this honorable body, ended up agreeing and ending up approving an agreement. If your position is that that agreement is not, if your position is that the agreement that they approved was not the agreement that you approved, then there is no agreement, and all of the raises and everything else that you would be entitled to under that contract, you are not entitled to. And at this time, you would be in a position
if that's a threat, that's
where
fine.
you would have to end up allowing for that to be recouped.
Madam Chair?
That's fine. We're okay with that until it's resolved. Not a problem.
Okay, so
we, the union, did not force that through as well, just
but
to let you know.
right now, the position is...
Councilor Bell, no.
Okay. All right.
So I just want to get a clarification on this. So the contract that I, as a council member, and other council members had in front of us, and we voted on that day, did the union members see that through their representatives?
But it was made available, is my understanding. It was actually sent, a red
'Cause I
line
understood they
version.
approved it. That's what I had understood at the
But a
time.
red line version of that was sent
We
over.
have, and we can give you a copy of what we did see and approve.
But
Well, I know the tentative, but was there, okay.
But let me finish. And this is one of the things that I wanted to finish on so we don't have a misunderstanding with regard to this. As I understand it, the item that ended up being sent over to the representatives of the union and that the administrative assistant was trying to copy to provide was not something that was ended up given to the union. However, it was provided to the union representatives. That was the city's belief in what the contract was that they approved. This body acted on the representation that it indeed was approved, and therefore that can be binding based on at least the apparent authority of the union's agent to end up indicating that this had ended up being a valid approved agreement. And then this body ended up approving it. If this body approved something that they say was not approved, then there would not end up being a valid agreement. The city's position has been that there is a valid agreement.
So for clarification purposes, our job as a city is to get it over to the union representatives. And you're saying, I just want to make sure for clarification, I'm not accusing, I just don't know.
Right.
They had a copy of it, and you're saying, just for clarification, in plainer English, you're saying they didn't forward it over to the union members?
Yes, they were given a red line version of it, which would basically be, you're familiar with the red line version.
Right.
Basically, it was the same thing, as I was told. It was the same thing that was provided to this body, that this body ended up approving, except the red lines were removed from the version that this body ended up approving.
And if I might, so what, we received an email from Dave LaMontagne that told us that we had an agreement, and when was it going to be taken to City Council? So based upon that verbiage, which I think all of you got copies of, we thought we had an agreement. What I've done is gone ahead and instituted all of the economics, and there's nothing different than it's on that signed list, and those were all instituted, so people have got it. What I figure is going to have happen is when we sit down, because let's say there, I don't remember exactly how many, but let's say there's 9 differences that have been brought to our attention.
12.
Huh?
I believe that there's 12 differences, just.
Okay, whatever the number is, we have pretty much come on agreement with everything but 2. And I figured with further discussion, we would read. When we get to that point, that we have a new agreement, and I've agreed, I've told all of you that I will make sure that, like that one document was signed by everybody, I will not bring anything back here unless everybody signed it, both sides. So everybody will be cool.
So it sounds to me like the only issue right now is their representative meeting with you guys.
Yes.
That should not be that complicated. If it's a case where he has not come forward or has not returned calls or has not been able to, I understand, then the onus is on them right now to make sure that their representative comes and meets. So pick a day next week and let's all meet. I mean, it seems pretty cut and dry.
I agree.
Yeah, and just understand, so we are the legislative branch. So the executive branch, the mayor's office negotiates the contract. So in response to what are we going to do about it, it was called to our attention, we're concerned, we did have a study session, but our role is only to ratify the agreement once it's reached. The issue here, it sounds like, is what were the exact terms of the agreement, and that has to be worked out between the union and the executive branch.
Councilman Muscat?
You know, it seems strange to me that I voted on a contract and now we're back negotiating a contract. So we don't have a contract.
We're not.
So we don't have a contract if you're back negotiating a contract. What I'm saying is, hear me out. I voted on a contract. Somebody handed me a contract. I looked it over and I voted on it. Yes, no, abstain, whatever it is. And now we're negotiating, or we catch wind that it's not the right contract. So we're back at the table again, or going to the table again. So we don't have a contract in my eyes.
That's really important.
And I don't like that. To me, I felt like I'm slighted by voting on something that I shouldn't have been looking at or voting at. Well, I know that, but, and then, and then it comes back to me saying, why did you vote on it?
Well,
I didn't know.
Council Chair, if I may.
Carries.
Yeah, and this is really the quandary in this situation. I think the administration is trying to work things out because this would be beneficial to everyone. But if what was presented to this body was not what they approved, and it's found that there was not a valid contract, then there is no contract. That was my initial point. But in addition to that, one of the things that seems to be misunderstood is that just because some people signed off on something doesn't necessarily mean that this body is bound to have to end up approving whatever was signed off on by the negotiations. And so when individuals from the union indicate that we do have a contract, it's what was signed here. It's not a contract that binds the city until this body ends up approving it. And so if this body ended up approving something that they didn't believe was the agreement, and they're not otherwise bound to that by virtue of what we call parent authority, then under those circumstances, there is not an agreement. And that was my initial point.
Did something change between agreeing to that piece of paper and this contract that was approved that would make you not want to go back to that original piece of paper that everybody signed off on?
My understanding, and I wasn't involved in any of the negotiations, so I'm relying on what I've been told. My understanding is that there are a number of things that are of significant concern to the city, including part-time employees within the Department of Ordinance Enforcement, and that would be a material issue. And I think that would be a material issue to this body if that was not something that had ended up being approved.
Now, is that something that has changed between negotiations and now, today?
And I could be wrong on this, but my understanding is that the position of the union is, no, we never agreed to that particular item. And my understanding from city representatives is that, yes, that was part and parcel, and that's why it was included in the red line version and in the version that this body ended up ultimately approving back in December.
I do have the tentative agreement, and that is not on there anywhere that was presented to the union when we did vote on it. And another thing that we are concerned about is all of these current in the last 30 days bills regarding the TPOA contract, like item 614 on the claims, complete research draft of opinion letter regarding potential conflict of interest regarding TPOAM contract negotiations for $958 for corporate counsel. I mean, this is all things that the union is not aware of because there has been no meetings, there has been no talk since the closed/open meeting back on the 16th.
And that item had nothing to do with this particular issue. It had to do with the document that you received today.
That was something I put on almost 2 years ago, and it finally come around to this.
So is that made available to us to see?
If this body wants to end up making it available, then they could.
Sure, it was something that I had brought up right after I was elected to city council the first time, okay, to try to stop any, whatever I was thinking of, okay, and I can't tell how much I feel for you, and I don't know what I can do legally for you. And I'm trying. I really am. I don't know how far I can go. It's something that we have to discuss, I guess.
And do you have a timeline on that?
I'm hoping as soon as possible.
Yes, I am too. Councilwoman
Thank you.
Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, I want to start by, I don't want to misspeak. I want to be respectful to any legal ramifications. But I do want to say, it is a good point, January 16th is when we had that meeting. We're approaching the 30-day mark. And this is my thoughts on this, and we've had a lot of discussion about this. This is a great concern. My concern is the actual document that we did vote on, the contract. If there were, what we're hearing is there were unilateral changes. My concern is with that. I have looked at opportunities to rescind, but I don't want there could be something negative come about that, through that as well.
Huge.
Yes.
And I don't want to see that, because
That's what I'm
my
trying to get
concern
to.
is we do it right, we address the legal issues, but we also look out for our working families, because their livelihood is very important, and their service to our community is felt by the entire community. So I'd like to see that, and we've talked quite a bit. I think we all want to see this resolved as quickly as possible, but done, the right way in your best interest and everyone's interest, as well as the city's.
Madam Chair, I like simple stuff. So the mayor is ready to meet. They're just waiting for your guy. When can you bring your guy over? Just pick a date.
Well,
it's that simple. Pick a date, and then let's make sure he can do it, and let's meet.
It's a take it or leave it.
I know, but here's the thing. When there's negotiations, when there's negotiations, I do this every day. Unless all parties sit at the table, we'll never get to any resolution. And if you don't get to any resolution at that particular point, then each party has to do whatever next step is. But when can you bring, the mayor says he's ready to meet with your representative, Dave. What's his last name?
He was here.
Okay,
He worked
but
for
I know he was here.
PLAM.
But when can you guys bring him again? Pick a date that you guys know you could bring him, and then present it to the mayor's office, and then meet and see if you can resolve it. If you don't resolve it, then we go to whatever.
We've been doing this since May of 2016.
Well, but at this particular point, I'm just telling you what I seen. When Dave was here, he said the same thing that the mayor did. It was just a couple of other items that were left to just iron out, and as soon as they met, and that's what I understood from the mayor and everybody else that was here, as soon as they met, they should be able to iron them out. The mayor's saying he's ready to meet and has been trying to get a hold of him, but the guy's not been available. Can you guys make him available? Okay, all right, but call him out if that's the case. When can you make him available?
Our president or representative.
Beautiful.
Let's let him talk.
My name is Bill Dishroon. I'm the HPEA, Dearborn Heights Public Employees Association president. I represent DPW, clerical, members of the council, mayor, corporation council. Appreciate your time. I feel the same way. What I want is a contract. I want this done and over with. This has gone on for 20 months, and I'm going to try not to get wordy on you. That's what I'm trying to stay away from. And because of the potential for the ULP, I'm not going to rattle on about all the issues that we have. Above all else, I want a contract for these people. Obviously, people are giving them props. DPW, clerical, everybody's getting props for the hard work they do. This is an opportunity to make this right, okay? This is what we were presented with, the tentative agreement. You guys have seen it 100 times. We have our original contract. You take the tentative agreement, you make the changes, then you present the final document. There's obviously a lot of issues with the final document. Tammy, I think, said 12. The mayor said 9. Whatever. There's issues that we have to iron out. We, at the tentative agreement, this is a document that the city produced, and we agreed to. It has our initials on it. It's all basic wages and stuff like that. As far as, we've got the tentative agreement written in stone as far as I can tell. That's, that should be a done deal, but it's not. So I'm going to reach out to Dave. Negotiations are over in my mind. This is where we're at, this tentative agreement. This is what should have been voted on. I don't know what happened. Lost in translation, misunderstanding, I don't know. But this is what we were presented, and this is what we presented to our membership, and that's what they voted on, and that's what they agreed to as well. This red line document that Corporation Counsel Miyake is referring to, I don't know. I don't know what he's referring to. I'm not trying to be funny or trying to be mean. I didn't see that. The only thing I saw after the 12-12 meeting where council voted on the agreement that was presented to them, the very next day, I was presented with, and we talked about this in the open meeting that we had, the closed meeting. This was presented to me, 110 pages or whatever, and my signature was requested to be put on it, which I refused to do. I don't sign anything without reading it.
Well,
1 page, 10 page, 100 page, not happening. On that day, I believe that was the day that this was sent over to Dave Lamontagne, because I contacted him, okay? So
Again, I don't want to get into splitting hairs and talking about all the stuff, all the issues or whatever. I just wanted to come up here and try to.
So for clarification, Bill, you guys voted on a tentative agreement. To me, it would only make sense that you would vote on a full contract, not on a tentative agreement. So, because tentative agreement is basically bullet points.
Right. Again.
So did you guys vote on the bullet points?
This is what our
But then you
membership
agreed it would
voted
go
on.
to contract, I presume. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
So you were tentatively approving it, subject to seeing the full contract, I presume. Is that correct? Because the tentative agreement you have there is just bullet points. It's not
Right.
the final
that
contract.
would be the idea is that we still have our original contract, and these would be the changes that were made to it, and that's it.
And then the union would vote on the final contract, I presume. They wouldn't?
No, just this.
Just that.
Just this. That's all we voted on. I know. I don't. That's the way it was done. And in the past, they've gone, where you go through the contract and you have sometimes longer versions if there's changes in the language. I've seen that in some of our stuff. But this is what we did, because this is a document that the city provided us, and we took it to our membership. If that makes any sense.
I mean, it does, but it just seems to me that they would, if somebody would get you guys a final contract to vote on.
Contract.
Because these are again the bullet points and the changes, like you said, the changes from the contract. Okay.
But you hit the nail on the head. Any bullet point has to be reverted to language to go into a
That's what I'm
formal
saying.
contract. And that's what we submitted, but see, it'll be like, we could get in an argument, and I think the best thing, and that's why I said the last time, is I look forward to meeting with Bill and with Dave LaMontagne, and we'll have our 3 members, and we'll try to get the language and everything resolved. I promised everybody.
So are we saying that it was possibly premature to put the contract before City Council for approval because the membership didn't approve the final version?
You can make that assumption, I guess. It's unprecedented to have stuff like this happen. I mean, there's some people up here that have experience with labor relations and contracts. I don't want to, for me, all I want is a legitimate, fair contract signed and sealed and delivered and just done, because I've been dealing with this for 21 months. I've had all, stuff. It's just dragged on. It's really been brutal. And not trying to say it's anybody's fault or anything, but that's what I want.
Isn't the last agreement that you ended up having probably somewhere around 110 pages as well that ended up being signed off on?
No, it's 90, I think, I want to say.
Okay,
maybe
but
95, maybe.
It's not bullet points.
Yeah, it's not. And it might actually be bigger print to this one. I don't know. It's just more. It's more pages.
Right.
And it's not to a fault, but obviously the items are the issue.
All right.
So that was maybe with the extra the 5 pages that were added in with the stuff that was agreed to, the change of the working hours, being closed on Fridays, being idled on Fridays, and stuff like that, and people that were going to be offered early retirement and stuff like that. But that was added after. That wasn't part of a negotiation. So I would say it's about 95 pages approximately, the current contract. So.
Okay.
All right. Thank you again for your time, and congratulations to all the board members and the new council members. Thank you very much.
So just for clarification, you're going to make sure that you get a hold of Dave and connect him with the mayor?
I'm sure Dave is aware that the mayor if the mayor has reached out to him like he says he has.
Well, I go through the city attorney, Beth, because I follow the rules, and so consequently, Beth will make contact with their union representatives. You're not helping yourselves, folks.
I would, but personally, I would take the bull by the horns and call Dave myself.
That's what I'm saying.
Being the president of the local, call him myself, say, hey, what's going on? Because I want to know what's going on as a city councilman. I put my vote on this thing, and I don't look any good either by doing it. And I don't want to be a person that got duped either.
And I'd like to say myself personally, we definitely value your services. I can tell you, with my business, we work with you guys on a regular basis, coming in and out of City Hall all the time. You guys do a great job. And I'm sure the administration, too, values your services also. We just want to make sure that everybody comes to the table and get this thing resolved.
That's what I'm... Madam Chair, I would recommend that, since there seems to be some concern about what can be said and what can't be said, that perhaps there be another closed session scheduled with Labor Council so that Councilman Muscat's concerns about what he can and can't say could potentially be addressed.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah, and this is not a forum for me to advise, and frankly, we need Labor Council here to end up addressing things to make sure we don't have an unfair labor practice based on anything that might be said by the table.
Council, at the point that there's a full contract done, at that point, do we rescind our vote, or do we just amend our vote based on new changes?
At this point, and this is where the difficulty is, based on what I've been told, I'm under the impression that there is a valid agreement. And there can't be a valid agreement that this body has not ended up agreeing to. Even if someone was to later say, look, there wasn't an assent by the union to this particular agreement, then all of a sudden these terms are not just imposed on the city. This body has to end up approving the agreement ultimately. So at this point, I think the question that you're asking is premature and might be something that is addressed better in a closed session. Hopefully these issues can end up being worked out, and then the appropriate course of action can end up being given to you, or you can be given advice about that.
What I'd like to see in the future, somewhere along the line in the future, and it may not be the people sitting here, it may be future council people, but I believe that a council representative should be at these negotiations. That would be something that we would then know what's going on. I mean, just sit there and observe. No talking, just an observation. And you get the information in front of you. Because sometimes I also feel when we ask for an update, I don't know what update I'm getting. I'm getting an update on one side, but I'm not getting the other side's update. So I don't know as an individual. And I've had, been involved in a lot of contracts over my 40 years working at Ford where they bring me the highlights, and you get a highlight and they'll say, well, wait a minute, later on down the road I lost this, but what happened with that? And you don't know. So you also got to put faith in your union leaders and representatives, okay? And I did. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, but I believe somewhere along the line in the future, council needs to be involved with some of this stuff.
I agree. Is it possible that one of us could be invited to these negotiations to observe for city council purposes?
Typically, that's not something that would be considered to be appropriate. It's considered to be part of the function of the executive branch to end up negotiating these things. We actually had this issue addressed a number of years ago, and that's just generally the normal way in which it's done. In certain communities where you don't have a strong mayor form of government, you can end up having some flexibility, but this is a strong mayor. It's like a normal executive legislative branch kind of separation of powers.
Madam Chair, I promised to bring this point up. At the closed meeting / open meeting, where are the minutes available for the open meeting? I heard that there was no minutes available for that. Are there minutes available? If so, how are they available?
I can answer that. I mean, I know you can as well, so do you want to answer, or do you want me to answer? Because I took the minutes for that, because it started out as a closed meeting, and then I continued it, but I marked it where it was open, and the discussion that was had, why it was open, that was all included, and I put it in a sealed envelope, signed my name on it on the crease where it seals, and I give it to the clerk, and it's kept for 1 year and 1 day.
Are both of them in the envelope?
Yes.
Okay.
Then if I may recommend that there should end up being a separation between those, and the minutes that for any sort of open session should come back here and end up being approved, and then they should be clearly made available to the public.
If it's okay, I will come by tomorrow morning and we work through this. Is that the recommendation? Yes?
Yes.
Will that be good for you?
Yeah.
Good for the clerk's office?
To get a court order now to open up that meeting?
The thing is, I mean, I don't think you
Well, it's your body.
because I wrote them and I
Yeah.
sealed them.
Right.
So as long as it's my eyes, right? Is that
And part of it is also, part of it should be, is for an open meeting. It's not actually for the closed meeting. So you should actually take and potentially transcribe the information for the open portion of it and make sure that that is included in what will be submitted to this body to end up voting on.
Thank you again.
Gary, one other question. Does the fact that we have 3 new members matter at all in any of this?
And in terms of what?
In terms of who signed the contract originally?
No, the body ends up making the decision. It's not the individual members or the composition of it. Doesn't make a difference with regard to
Even
that.
though, I'm not saying this would happen, even though the 3 new people would have voted no on the contract, and that has no, it's the previous council that has all the authority over this contract?
Well, let's clarify that, because my sense is that you would not have ended up voting no, because you would have been under the impression that what you had was an approved agreement that had ended up being approved by the union, just as everyone else was under these circumstances. That is the issue here that is in dispute and the critical issue. But nonetheless, even if you were to disagree or would have disagreed, it doesn't matter. It's the decision of the body.
Okay, thank you very much. We have someone else at the podium here.
Good evening. Congratulations. You're doing a great job. I thought it's going to take you longer time, but you're doing a terrific job.
Thank you.
Zuhair Abdelhad, 354 Rosemary. I have been attending the city council for more than 15 years probably, and I always see things happening. To me, they look like circus. I don't see any accountability for some people who do something wrong. Always there are some things wrong done, and I never saw any action taken against anybody. And I can count at least a dozen where people have done something intentionally wrong and nobody was accountable for it. I am going to ask this honorable city council to change the charter of this city. You have to be present in those negotiations. My understanding when this happened that the mayor hired Mr. Maratki to do the negotiation. That's my understanding. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry.
I'm not involved in negotiations.
Okay. There was Acho hired, and they do the negotiation. So the negotiation went outside to outside council because there was lots of talk about conflict of interest, and the mayor tried, to make it look as legitimate as possible, but the same person was involved. I don't know if this contract was given or the changes were done intentionally or just mere mistake. But whatever is the reason, you have to find out the truth. Why those changes happened and what is the result? Is there liability for the city, or there is something to take their rights away, which they negotiated for 22 months and we paid for the lawyers to negotiate? It is your responsibility. This is our money. Somebody is playing with it, whatever it is. I am urging you once again, and I have asked for the last 5 years, to revise the charter. Have a voice. Do not sit on the side and just stamp the money.
Thank you.
That isn't right. our right is to protect us and to protect those people and to protect the city and the
That's something I'd like to look into, is
Thank you.
revising the
Thank you.
charter.
But, Madam Chair, I mean, just for clarification though, Mr. Abdulhaq, you know, the only one that can change the charter is the residents by voting, so.
So you can do it if you put it on the ballot.
Right. But it's not, but it's the residents that vote on it.
Yes, but you can put the resolution on the ballot and we vote on it. And I urge you to do it. You need to have your own loyalty.
Anyone else?
Move to adjourn.
Motion to.
I'd like to, first, I'd like to take a moment and thank everyone for taking time out of their evening and attending the meeting, and especially for those people who will be watching it on cable TV later. Do I have an emotion to end it?
Yeah, move to adjourn.
End it.
Second.